What's happening, Hardscapers? This is episode 168 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And today's episode is brought to you by our two sponsors. We've got Cycle CPA. If you need bookkeeping, accounting, or CFO services, reach out to Cycle CPA at cyclecpa.com. Mention the How to Hardscape podcast. Get $200 off their services there for that. And we'll talk about more about them later in the episode, as well as InLight Outdoor Lighting. They have quality, incredible fixtures for outdoor lighting. I use them personally in my business. I love their quality light that they have. We've actually done an episode on the podcast with them talking about designing outdoor lighting. Be sure to check that one out, and be sure to follow them on Instagram for inspiration and all the photos that they're posting there. They're at InLight Design. That's INLITE Design on Instagram. And today we're joined by Nathan Helder. He's the president of Gelderman Landscape Services. He's also the owner of Southbrook Accounting for Skilled Trades, as well as the principal consultant at Southbrook Consulting. And we just get in very common things that he sees with business owners that are being held back through his consultations. So we get into about 5 things that he commonly sees with his consultations and why business owners are being held back. These are incredible points, and without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Today, we're joined by Nathan Helder. He is the president of Gelderman Landscape Services and principal consultant at Southbrook Consulting, a management consulting firm focused on providing customized solutions, and also the owner of Southbrook Accounting for Skilled Trades. Nathan, thank you so much for joining me here.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. It's a pleasure.
Let's get started, Nathan, to get to know a little bit more about you yourself. I know my own background in the industry. I worked for a paver supplier in the office, and I would see Gelderman trucks kind of leaving the yard in behind us, those red trucks. So I am really happy to have you here to discuss yourself in the industry. Can you give our audience a little bit of context about you yourself and kind of where that journey begins for you in our industry?
Yeah, so my story is a bit different. I did not grow up in the industry. It actually started approximately 17 years ago. I asked my father-in-law if I could buy some shares in this company. He owned Gelderman Landscape Services at the time. He said, "There's one share and you can buy it." I'm like, I don't have a landscape background. I know how to milk cows, how to feed cows. I studied animal nutrition at the University of Guelph. So I was like, so what are you saying, Hank? And he says, "Yeah, I think you could run this company and take it to the next level." My wife was dead against it. She had never worked for her father ever. But I decided in the spring of 2006 to quit my one job and start with Gelderman on a Monday. And let's say the rest is history. But at that point, Gelderman was about $5 million in sales, about 50 staff, and 50 years in business. And I was going to be the third generation owner to take the company to the next level. Without knowing anything about landscaping. Quite quickly, I learned that, how to gain respect of people that have been with the company for 20 plus years. That first summer, I did spend a lot of time in the field on different crews, doing all the different tasks, always asking questions, why are you still here? Why do you do it that way? I berated people with questions constantly just to learn and peel the onion to figure out this business. And so after 1 year, my father-in-law stepped away and I became the president in 2007. So I was 32 years old, I think, 33 years old at the time. That first year, we were talking about, how does Nathan become the president? You can't practice being the president. I found that out. When the buck stops on your desk, it's right there. But to say you're a manager and you have total control, that's hard. And to say, so I became the president in 2007 and made a $60,000 mistake my first year as president. My father-in-law stood by the wayside and did not say a thing. You want to know what that mistake was?
Absolutely.
All right, so here it is. It's kind of embarrassing, but it is what it is. But so he traditionally had always leased pickup trucks, and we had 3 trucks I remember the unit number 83, 84, and 85. And the buyout after a 3-year lease was 20 grand. And all three trucks had caused no problems. So I thought, okay, let's buy them out. So that was $60,000 of cash. And then that following winter, because we do snow plowing, well, that following winter, we had a broken transmission, broken frame. And, that was bad news. Like, we had bought these trucks out. Now we had all the repairs for it. And I said to Hank, my father-in-law, I said, so why did you not say anything to me about my decision to go ahead and buy these? He goes, if I had jumped in and stopped you make a decision, you would never have made a decision again. You would always ask me for my input and my advice. And he goes, so what did you learn? Well, not to fall in love with the truck. The truck is like a pen. When the pen stops working, you get a new pen. You don't go and try to replacement parts for the pen. And since then, we've never bought a pickup truck again for snow plowing. We buy certain trucks for certain tasks, but our lawn maintenance and our snow plowing trucks are all leased.
Interesting backstory. Do you feel coming into the industry as like fresh without necessarily knowing industry, did that play to your advantage at all? I know you kind of went off there talking about gaining the respect of the employees. So obviously that's like a difficulty that you experienced, that you had to kind of build that up to get that respect and all the questions you have to ask. But were there any like advantages that you saw that you were able to bring from your previous experiences and transfer to what you were getting into?
Oh, most definitely. So the fresh person, so remember, this is a 50-year-old company with a lot of practices in place for a long time. And you all know that once you're doing things for 5, 10, 15 years, you do things without realizing anymore. You just do it. So for me, I'm in an inquisitive mindset. I always try to figure things out, how to peel the onion to figure out how does it all fit back together. So I would ask all the dumb questions. Why do you do what you do? Oh, why do you do it that way? And not out of disrespect, but just I'm trying to break it apart and put it back together in my own head. But I remember how my father-in-law did his job costing. It just didn't make any sense to me. I remember trying to learn it, trying to figure it out. And I was like, okay, what about this? Oh, that's different. So my background in the past was sales and nutrition consulting with dairy farmers. Well, if you know anything about farmers, they're very honest people and they shoot from the hip and you build relationships. So I knew how to build relationships, how to get their trust, how to do that. And I took those skill sets to a different industry. And I believe, my staff, I know some key staff members here, when it was told to them that I was coming on board, they were excited and happy. They didn't need another landscaper to do it all over again. They needed somebody to lead them that would respect their abilities and to bring some new blood to the company. So it was, I know there are some long-term staff here that were super excited that I was coming on board, because every owner, every president has a lifespan. It doesn't go on indefinitely. And I believe now too that 25 years, if you're an owner for 25 years and president, the flame is not, at the end of the 25, you're not as sharp as you were in the first 5 years. So this company needed a new president. My father-in-law was retiring. He was 55. He was like, all his dreams were fulfilled. He didn't need more, whatever. But the business still needs to be firepower, needs to be going. And so I brought that new life to the party, so to speak. The flame was really close to my rear because I had to pay full value for this business, and the business had to fund the transaction. I did not come into this business with cash. I came in with a lot of debt, and my father-in-law foot the bill. And this is my last year of paying him off. And I paid, they do all the return on impetus. I overpaid for this opportunity, but it was an opportunity of a lifetime. So the business had to fund the transaction, and it did. It has. And we've grown, we've tripled the size of the business in the last 17 years. And it's all, the business has paid for it all. I didn't take on any equity partners, nothing like that.
That is quite the story there with that. And it is really interesting to see somebody, it's a story we haven't actually had on the podcast yet. Somebody coming in the industry. Usually a story is something like I started mowing lawns and then wanted to, start building in hardscapes and something like that. So it's a really interesting perspective that you bring into this. And Did you find it difficult to gain that respect of employees when you first started to get in? Was it something that just takes time and to really get to know the people, or was there some friction there that you noticed that you had to kind of overcome as the new president and owner stepping in there?
I would say yes and no. So it was easy to build rapport with field staff because I know the first, like, we have a few fellows here still now, and we'll talk about joking because, yeah, I remember your first week. You were on my crew. I said, what did we do? We were digging holes, sonotubes for a patio around a pool. I said, oh yeah, I remember getting on my hands and knees and just digging and doing what I had to do, right? So building rapport and trust and respect with that group was easy. It was the management staff that was harder because there was managers in place. I'm the new kid in town. The loyalty was not to me; it was to my father-in-law because he had hired them and developed them. And so it took. It took a few years. I'm saying 7 years, at least 7 years. I had to realistically had to bring my own management team into the company. So the first few years, it was more about, okay, where we are, because my father-in-law, like Hank said to me, you're taking the company to the next level. So what's the $5 million company look like in the landscape world? It's pretty good size already. I'm 32 years old. I know nothing about the industry. And yet he's saying to me, yeah, I see you to take it to the next level. So for about 2 years, we hovered around that 5-6 million, didn't get past it. And that was the years I was learning. And it was until we started to grow upwards to the 10 that I started bringing in, brought in a finance manager, right? That was I remember talking to my father-in-law saying, here, I'm thinking of spending $70,000, $80,000 on a finance manager so we can manage our cash flow better, do this job, add job costs. And he goes, you can't afford that position. I'm like, we can buy a truck, 2 trucks for $80,000 at that time. I don't know. I think we need to do this. And so I remember saying, no, we're going to do this. A year later, he says to me, that was your best hire. Because he didn't know what that looked like because we never had that position before, right? So it was until I started bringing in a little more structure, adding some more key positions that I hired for myself, like under my direction, that changed, right? So it was, there's still some staff here that I've been here, like we have staff for 42 years. The respect is to me now, yeah, no problem. But there's many staff that could not get over the change in the direction of the business, right? So if you think of a business owner who's been doing it for 25 years, they've met all their dreams. Cash is usually not a problem. They're not looking to make, they want to make profit, but the drive to change, to make things better, improve profitability isn't the same. There's a guy like me, which I have a big debt, I got to pay it off. So we had to make some substantial changes in the company and change with the times. And some staff change with, and some don't. And so, some staff had to leave and have done fantastic things elsewhere. And other staff came in. We got great, and it's evolving. Right? So yeah, the respect it's earned. It's never demanded. I've never ever said, I'm the president, you have to do this. Like, that doesn't work. It's earned, but it's not because I'm a great landscaper. Like, I remember, on a walk behind, and then the manager said, that was my first year. She goes, Nathan, it'd be great. Like, it looks good. Like, all the grass is cut, but it looks like you were following a snake. It's turning off on the end. I couldn't do it, and I'm not there to do it, right? But I jump in machines on Saturdays when nobody's around, so nobody can see what I'm doing. But no, I've learned that you don't have to be the best landscaper or snowplow operator to earn the respect of your people that work for you. You have to respect them in their roles, that they know that role very well. You pay them well for those positions. But what you add is a totally another level, right? We're like the wheel. Everything has to fit together. And we all need each other. I can't do without them. They can't do without me. I really believe that.
I could go on and on asking you questions about what it takes to run a company of Gelderman's size and how you got from where you started to where you are now. But I think I'll take another spin on this and ask you, because you started Southbrook Consulting, so you deal with a lot of different companies. So you bring that perspective of how you developed Gelderman, and you get to see other people along that journey. And I'm sure you can kind of relate those two or pick apart things that they're doing in their businesses that you can help them along the way. So I do want to ask you common things that you see with those different companies to kind of pick apart more, not just these common things, but also kind of what has helped you along the way in your journey. So I guess my next question for you is, what are some common things that you see with these companies that you consult with?
Well, yeah, the first off is that they're not alone. I experienced the same things in my own business. And I guess that's what makes me a very unique consultant for that matter. I don't like to call myself a consultant, but more of a coach. Because I live and breathe the same problems they have, right? With my own staff and people, whatever, right? And yeah, so there's common issues that I see and common hurdles that hold companies back. And even the Gelderman business, when I ask questions about strategic planning, they're like, what? What's that? We don't have a plan. We just try to beat last year's numbers, right? So it's always about beating something else, but what's the goal in the end? And so I think that's probably number one, is that there is no plan. The plan is that we're going to do better. And then the dead airspace. Well, what's better mean? Well, more holidays, more money, more what? More sales, more customers, more happy. And it really comes down to is, what does the owner really want out of life? What's their motivation? What's driving them, right? If you're a person of faith, you might have a different perspective than somebody else, and it's all fine, right? It's just that some owners don't even know why they operate what they do. They don't actually have a clue. They never asked. They just were working for somebody, they weren't happy, and wanted to work for themselves because that's so much better. Well, that's just different. That's not always better. It's different. And so sometimes it's by sheer luck, and other times that they're very successful, and other times it's because of their planning and they're very purposeful, right? So that's probably number one, is that they have no plan or goals. They just want more sales. But more sales means what? Well, it means you need more people, you need more of this, you need more trucks and more systems. And then it's like, okay, what's the goal in the end? Do you want 0 to 3 crews? Do you want 3 to 10 crews? Do you want 10 plus crews? And every grouping, it's all fine. It doesn't matter, right? So I don't, as a coach, it's not about my idea of how your business should run. It's more about, what do you want out of life? Where do you see that? Do you want more family time? Do you want to lose your family to your business? What is it, right? And that's where the Gelderman business too is, that they didn't have a goal. It was just, let's do better than last year. But they they didn't articulate what better was. And so, for me, I'm always looking at my end game. Like if I buy a business and get involved, I'm always, as I buy it, I always look at my exit at the same time. I'm 48 this year. I know I won't be doing this till I'm 68, right? So I know that. Maybe not even 58. I don't know, right? It depends on what God has in plan for me. But at the same time, we try to make the best decisions with what we know, and try to get a little bit focused on, where we're going. And we know, like I had an accident 2 years ago, year and a half ago, I broke my neck. I had fractured my C7 vertebrae, and I was out of commission for 2 months. Well, the Gelderman business carried right on as if nothing had happened, right? So you just don't know what's going to happen in life. And I'm not saying that just because you have a goal, everything's fine. But every business needs some kind of direction, is what I've learned.
You mentioned it in there, not to mention your injury that took time away, but you mentioned in there, like, what's the goal? Is it increase in sales? Vacation came up, and I do want to touch on that because when I first reached out to you, I got a response that you were on a 6-week vacation in one of the busiest times in the season, and I said to myself, I want some of that. I want however he pulled that off. That's where I want to get to. So how did you do that? How do you have the, I guess, confidence in your team to keep Gelderman going while you take a 6-week vacation, or during that time when you experience that injury and Gelderman just keeps on running like that? Can we pick apart that a little bit?
Well, I think we'll get, like, the other common issues that hold companies back is all part of this. This is Perfect. All one in this. Yeah. In a nutshell, this is my 17th year at Gelderman, not the first 5, right? So the last 10 years, has been the most instrumental in as far as me thinking about my end game and how I try to delegate myself out of a job. I really don't want to be on the org chart. I don't want to be responsible for anything day to day, because as soon as an owner is responsible for too many things, the business is the owner. That's it. And I'm not about that, because I don't remember. I bought a business that was already functioning quite well. We had 50 staff members. There was a lot of structure in place. I've just expanded that, taken it to the next level. But for somebody who's just starting off, that's pie in the sky. Like, come on, who's going to take a 6-week vacation from May the 25th to July the 9th? Like, that is the busiest time. It took me 15 years to get here, and it was very intentional. I've always been about what happens if I get hit by the bus. I don't want something happen to me affect all those people that have families to support. And so there's a huge responsibility that I have. That business is not me. It's that responsibility that drives me to grow the business, to put management in place, to empower my staff to think like owners. And I'm taking that now to the next level, where I'm selling a share to some of the staff, because I want them to have that opportunity, right? So we'll talk about more of these little issues here, and together is how you build a company that's not dependent on the owner.
I just want to take a break from today's episode to talk about our sponsor, Cycle CPA. You may have a CRM or project management software in place, but what data are you using to ensure your estimating is accurate? Having a proper accounting setup and accurate bookkeeping done is key to understanding overhead expenses and other costs that must be recouped in your estimates. Cycle CPA is a remote bookkeeping and CFO firm that helps to connect the dots from the financial reports to the hardscape and landscape data needed in order to reach high profits. They provide landscape and hardscape industry benchmarking, job costing, financials by service line, advisory meetings, and much more. Cycle CPA's team of accountants are specialized within the hardscape and landscape industry, and you can visit them at cyclecpa.com, and for $200 off, mention the How to Hardscape podcast. Now back to our episode. We also want to say thank you to Inlight for sponsoring today's episode. Did you know that one of the easiest ways to grow your hardscape business and increase your revenue is by incorporating low voltage outdoor lighting to your projects? Using lighting can take your projects to the next level, make you more profit, and add that wow factor and make your business stand out. As a professional hardscaper, we know you need reliable and high quality products to avoid callbacks and wasted time on job sites. That's why Inlight offers some of the highest quality lights and is the quickest system to install on the market. Their patented Easy Lock connector ensures that lighting will be the easiest thing you install every time. No heavy lifting, no massive machinery, just plug and play. Not only that, but Inlight also provides many educational resources like online and in-person training, installation videos, unbeatable customer support, and more. Everything you need to successfully take your business to the next level with outdoor lighting and beyond. It's one of the many reasons why I stand behind Inlight and many other companies that provide these educational resources to their clients, to contractors, and to help us grow our businesses. So for more information on how Inlight can help grow your business, check them out on Instagram at Inlight Design. That's at INLITE Design on Instagram. DM them to find out how to put more money in your pocket this season. Yeah, let's get to another common issue that you typically see when dealing with another company.
So I think the second one, not particularly order here, but another big one is that owners can't let go, and they have a lack of trust. Poor delegation, right? They just, it's their baby, right? So the advantage of me is that, or mine, is that I'm a third generation owner. I did not start Gelderman. Right? My wife's grandfather started in 1955. Then her father took it over, took it to one level, and then I come in on board. So because of that, right at the start, I had to trust everybody, because I couldn't use a walk behind. I couldn't use a skid steer. I could probably lay lockstone and be the laborer, and that's it, right? So I had to trust everybody right away. I had to just give them that trust. in respect. But when I see other owners that started their business, their first generation, it's their baby. And it's almost sometimes more important than their family, and they just can't let it go. So there's part of that, they can't let go because they're scared of losing their investment. And it feeds right into their attitude of a culture too. Like these things really fit together almost, right? But that letting go and trusting others to learn from their mistakes. And I use my $60,000 mistake as the lesson learned. My father let me make a $60,000 mistake. He didn't stop me. Now, how do I empower my staff and give them the freedom to make decisions, knowing that they might screw up. But if you think of the sport of baseball, I always think of this, right? Baseball. A good batter bats what number? 300? 400? No, 250? So if they bat 300, that means they're striking out how many times? They're not getting on base how many times? They're only getting on base 3 times out of 10. And so if you're making decisions and your managers, your crew leaders, whoever it is, they're making tons of decisions all day long and have 10 decisions to make, they make 3 errors. They're batting 700 then. You'd be really happy as a batter. That'd be fantastic. But as owners are so fearful that their staff might make one little mistake and do what? Cost them the business? That never would happen. Get into an accident? Yeah, maybe, but that's insurance. We have all that covered anyways. But owners are fearful that their staff might make mistakes, and because of that, they don't empower them to win. They take all the decision making away from them. They put it on themselves, and then they wonder why their staff don't stay. So then I ask the question: would you work for yourself? And there's like, I don't know. Well, then why do you expect anybody else to work for you? Like, it's that simple. You either build people up or you break them down, one of the two. Right? So for me, it's really been my fresh perspective forced me to trust. Now, there's a whole, psychology on trust, right? I don't just give it. I always say proof's in the pudding. I give it at first, but then if the pudding's not there, then it's okay, what's going on here? Trying to figure it out, right? And as you grow your business and you take on larger, more financial risk and responsibility, there's some key capabilities that in the word trust is how do you find people that you can trust? Yeah, they got to have some capability level, they have to be the right personality and everything else. But overall, I don't have a problem delegating, right? I'll train the person. I hire the right people, although when the wrong people get hired, we have to let them go quickly. But it's the lack of trust that holds companies back and slows everything down. When you have a high level of trust, things move quick and everybody's having fun.
That's a great point. And just the things that you were saying there just really hit home for me, because I'm definitely one of those that struggle with delegation, struggle with allowing employees to make mistakes and giving up, a piece of my business. I'm sure that's very, very common in this industry, being that we're entrepreneurs. It's our business, but not only that, but it's also our name on the work that we do, that we take such pride in. So it's kind of like that perfect storm of not willing to give up that sort of control of our businesses to our employees.
But Mike, how many mistakes have you made, and who calls you out on your mistakes? Nobody. Right? Who's going to say, well, Nathan, you screwed up there? Now, my staff will actually, because we have a really good, unique relationship. But if I don't price something properly, or if I hire the wrong person, or if I don't train them, and if I was on a cut-off saw and I cut the piece the wrong way and had to redo it, or a step broke, if I dropped a step, who would yell at me and scream at me and make me it doesn't happen, right? So as owners, we forget that we're always making mistakes, but nobody actually says anything to us, because who's going to say it? Nobody. The bank manager might at the end of the year. Your accountant might say, Mike, you did all that work, but for what? There's nothing left over. Oh, yeah. Okay. But that's the only time, right?
Definitely. Great points. So we've talked about kind of having an end goal. We talked about that trust, that delegation side of things. What else do you typically see with these business owners?
Well, this one, especially today, it's changing slightly, but I see a lot of business owners see their staff as liabilities. They're not assets, and that's the culture side of things, right? So now more than ever in the last 2-3 years, if you don't look at your asset or your staff as an asset that appreciates in value, or think that culture is get to work, I pay you well, that should be enough. Is it? Probably not. So today's world, it's really about you must invest in a culture. You must see your staff as assets, not liabilities. They don't depreciate over time. They appreciate. They go up in value, you hope, because the more experience they have, the more knowledge of the business. It means they'll produce more revenue from those employees. But then we're so scared to invest in training. Take a day out and bring a food truck in, have some fun, give some bonuses if you have a bonus plan in place, right? Just share your time, show your love by spending time with them. That culture is critical, but it all stems back into how does the owner think about staff in general? So I hear, you go to different events and you hear owners complain about their staff, or they say, oh man, it cost me this, or bitching about that. It's like, okay, with that attitude, the shit falls downhill. I'm sorry, but that attitude can go all the way down, and guess what they hear? Right? Well, I used to do this. Well, so what? I know you're the owner, you're driven differently, right? So here at the Gallagher business, we hired a new HR manager about 2 years ago. Tremendous asset to the business. The business has evolved. She's just fantastic. That's when I was away on holidays. I could see our Instagram, and they're having barbecues without me. They're handing out soft drinks and Gatorade on those hot days. That's great. I love seeing that, right? That's a culture we have here, is that when the crews drive out of here when it's 30 degrees on 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning, you give them Gatorade and a granola bar. Costs you maybe $100, and they talk about it for days, right? It's just all the little things you got to think about, right? So it's staff is, your business is built on the staff you have. We all know getting a sale nowadays is easy. Now I have to find the crew to do the work. And we're that's hard. But that goes back to your purpose. What do you plan to do? Grow by 50% every year? Or make profit? Or what is it, right? So, that's a short one, but staff, you got to focus on them as assets and health benefits and all that. There's really simple ways of providing these opportunities without costing a fortune. And the thing is, I've always said to my consulting clients too, is you actually want to pay your staff as much as possible, high, and then you charge the clients even more and do better work yet. Not, well, I can't pay, I can't pay them so much because then I have no money left over. It's well, then you have a pricing problem. Or if the price is too low, it's well, is your work not very good then too? You're scared to charge for it? It's because you don't have great staff, right? So it's all connected. And a lot of clients I work with is that I ask you, what's your charge out rate? Okay, what's it based on? What do you pay your staff? Your staff are paid low in the industry. So then you only attract the low ones in the industry, not the good people. And then they don't charge out to the clients properly because their numbers are too low to start off with. And it's just a cycle, so you have to break it, right? So that's more, the owner has to break that first cycle and says, no, I want to be one of the most expensive out there. And then I can hire the best staff. They can do great work. And when you have great staff, guess what? They show up on time, they work hard, they run through that wall for you. Well, then good things come out of that. And that's like I say here, we're at a spot here in the company in 2022, magic is happening. We have great camaraderie, great culture, and the numbers show it too. But magic is happening. Everybody's working together in all the different divisions and helping each other. And it's hey, how do we do that now? Well, very intentional, very focused. And it's not easy. It's always trying to find a strong person. And if a person's not able to keep up or doesn't want to, then you show them the door and say, let's free you from the cage. And have fun, and that person goes somewhere else and be fantastic, right? Think of hockey and soccer and baseball. It doesn't work out in Toronto, but can work out in somewhere else just fine. And that's how we look at staff members too.
I like the mindset of thinking the staff as assets and they appreciate and value. And then kind of comparing that to, I guess, machinery, equipment that depreciates in value. So that's a whole mindset side of things with the staff appreciating in value is something that I haven't heard quite yet, and really changes your outlook when you put it that way on employees and on hiring, and paying them above market value will bring those better players in. And when you surround the whole team with those, high rated players, that just creates a culture in and of itself right there that you do there.
Yeah, we're celebrating 67 years in business this year. And it's built on the people. It's continually, it's not always the same people for 67 years. It's all different people, but, at Gelderman, caring is in our nature as our purpose statement. And it's care, right? We care for people, we care for the environment, our clients, our equipment, our profit, our sales, everything simultaneously. It's just that concept of always caring.
Yeah, and if you can't afford the employee or to pay the employee what they're worth, you have a pricing issue, not a hiring issue. I love that there. Nathan, what else do you see commonly with these businesses that you are consulting with?
Yeah, so I guess the third one or fourth one here would be a weak understanding of their numbers. And most contractors have this entrepreneurial seizure, as one person has said it before. It's not my thing, but it's an entrepreneurial seizure where they've been a technician for somebody else and they decide that, they need to be self-employed, but they have the foggiest clue how to use QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop. And they really don't have, they understand that, how to get their pricing is probably, they use swag. I don't know if you ever heard of swag before?
No.
You know what swag is? Scientific wild ass guess.
Okay, gotcha.
So there's a combination of swag and competitive pricing. So they do a call and say, what's your square foot price on your XYZ? And they say, oh, it's $25. Okay, well, that's a big company. I can't really charge $25. I'll charge 23. And then they start pricing and then carry on. But there's no understanding of their own numbers, right? So I hear regularly that, I said, so how do you manage your business? Like from what financial reporting? No, we don't use that. So, okay, so you use QuickBooks? Yep. So how do you manage your business? Well, it's the cash balance in the bank. But we all know when you do a construction project and you take a deposit, the cash balance just went way up. And then 2 months later, when that cash is long gone, you get the invoice from your permacon dealer, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, where's the cash? Well, the cash should be there because you got the deposit, but the cash is not there because you didn't record this properly. And so, it saddens me sometimes when I see great businesses doing fantastic work, winning awards from Landscape Material and whoever else, and they have no clue. Their job cost is just not there. They're working hard. Everything looks great on the outside, but I get called in because the financials are just not there. And so their balance sheet, which is, what's that? What's the balance sheet, Nathan? They don't know what it is. They have accountants that don't really tell them anything. They say, yeah, it's been a tough year. You don't have to pay any tax. That's good. But you have no money to take out as dividends either. And I'm like, you do all that work for what reason, right? So it's just a weak understanding of the numbers, the accounting. They don't understand the accounting procedures, what transactional processing really looks like, and how to do bank reconciliations or a month-end process. That's just foreign for a lot of people. And so when you ask them, how are you doing? Well, we're busy. You making money? We hope so. They don't know, right? So at Gelderman here, that's one thing my father-in-law did very well. Even like this business always knew their costs. Like I have binders that go back to the 80s where they knew their cost per hour by crew way back when it's all pencil and paper, right? And so we've taken all that on. And divisional reporting and KPIs is this huge part of our business and how we run it. So the common issue that holds companies back is that they don't know their numbers. They're growing way too fast, right? Getting the sales is the easy part, and then we just go buy trucks and stuff, and then cash flow, well, that's a problem. Or they're personally connected to it because the business can't stand on its own 2 feet. So now you need, personal guarantees for every truck you buy. Well, that's the problem. That means your business is not standing on its own 2 feet, right? There's tons of shareholders loans. I get you need to do a shareholders loan when you start a business, but you got to figure a way how to get that company to pay that back, not add to it over the years. And those are the things that will bring down the company fast, right? Like I've always said, you don't see a company go broke when they have no work. The company goes broke, goes bankrupt when they've got tons of work. And they're trying to, because they're not doing a good understanding their financials and recording things properly, they always have to sell more to get the cash in. And then all of a sudden it gets too much, or we go through a little bit of a recession or an idea of a recession, and then the sales stop, but all those expenses now, how do they get paid? Because they didn't know how they were doing it before. And that's how, you can't make bank, can't do a payroll. All right, so that's the consulting. I do a lot of financial consulting and business consulting, right? So my personal experience is that I didn't have money when I bought Gelderman. The Gelderman business, I came in with $0 and bought a $5 million business. And the business paid for it all the way through. I didn't personally put any money into the company. So I teach that concept and how to do that for your own business, right? How you create a business that generates cash so you can pull cash out of your business and do something else with it. Right? So I'm always about you got to create profit, and this is where accountants and bankers fight. Right? Your accountant says, don't pay tax. Your banker says, well, if I want to give you a line of credit, I need to see retained earnings. That means you have to make profit and pay tax. So their owners are like, they don't pay themselves a salary. And then, they try to take a dividend, but then there's no money to do a dividend. So what do they do? Well, hopefully their spouse works and has a good job. And so I work with a lot of owners on that financial stuff and say, hey, you want to show a T4, because if you're a young guy or gal and you want to buy a house, what do they ask for? They don't ask for your T5. They ask for your T4. Because bankers know that a T5 is not guaranteed. They know your business will not always make money. But they want you to see a stable salary so you can get that house. But your accountant won't tell you that stuff, right? So now they're confused, they're lost, but they keep growing and keep buying more stuff, and then we get involved, and that's why I started the separate accounting services. And all we do is for trades, so we do payroll, bookkeeping, month end, all that financial reporting for contractors, because they didn't get in the business because they're good accountants. They're usually a great technician that can build stuff, can do stuff. Occasionally, somebody might have a degree in accounting, but not very, very seldom. Right? So you can do the best work, but if you don't record things properly in your financials, you really, you'll go on for a long time. I know a lot of companies that are 20, 30 years in business, and then they call me and say, I should have been talking to you 10 years ago. And I look at their balance sheet and it's like, yeah, there's no money here. So you want to retire, but there's nothing to sell. Like you would have to pay somebody to buy your company. And that saddens me. That's why this whole consulting thing started. It's like, oh man, you do better work than Gelderman, you do nicer work, but you're not making any money doing it. And why? Like, is that your goal? And I don't think you want to be a non-for-profit. So that's what got me in the whole consulting thing. And I can't, like, when somebody comes out to me or reaches out to me, it's hard for me to say no to help them because I see the issues, right? So the money thing is like, if they don't know their costs, they don't know how. You got to know your costs and understand what profit really is and what cash flow and how that all works. It affects your pricing, affects how can you afford to pay $75,000 or $80,000 for that crew leader? Well, if you don't know your numbers, you'll never do it because you're scared, or you take a chance on it.
Yeah,
right. It's all connected.
Such a great point, and I've heard that if you do quality work, a company that does quality work doesn't go out of business because they can't find clients. They go out of business because they don't know their numbers, and that's such a great point there. Nathan, do you guys do profit first accounting or something along the lines of that at all? No?
I know the concept. I've never had to do it because I think that way already.
Gotcha. So you already have a system in place that you don't need to like force yourself to make a profit because you already know that you're making a profit essentially, right? With the system that you have in place.
Yeah. So my profit sharing plan is a little bit of a great game of business where you create a threshold. So I say, okay, in order to run this business, we need this many hundreds of $1,000s. If I want to buy new equipment, I need to add that much more. I need a return on my investment for my wife and I, that's this much. So there's a threshold that we have to hit first as a profit. And if we don't hit that number as a company, nobody gets paid profit sharing. Right, so we've put this in place, and we'll likely be paying a profit out because we're over track. We're doing very well this year, so I'll probably pay an interim profit bonus next month or so to our staff. I've heard of the program, I've read up on it, but I don't have an issue in my company that I need to put, add that bank account to make sure the profit goes there to pay. Right? It works for some. I know. So we do bookkeeping for some that have that. It's a nightmare because now you have all the extra accounts that need to be reconciled. Right. So what's the benefit? Some people are really big believers of it. Great. If it works for you, keep it up. But when we do our budgets and our pricing, I'm always looking at, so I'm not involved day to day in my company, but I'm watching the pricing like a hawk. And so we just had a strategy session last week. And interest rates, where are they now? Well, they're 5%, 6% in a lot of cases. And so if you're aiming for 10% net profit, I'm like, that's too low. When cost of borrowing money was 2%, there was an 8% spread. But now cost of borrowing is 6%, that's a 4% spread. That's not enough to run your business. Especially if you're growing more than 10%, you need way more cash than 4% difference. So now we're aiming for 15. We just raised it up. And you got to think that way now already, right? So in our profit, in our pricing, we're adding 50%, we're aiming for 50% net profit margin. Because we know that if we grow, we need to buy that payloader for snow. I'm not going to use cash to buy that. I will finance it. But the financing cost just went up 4% than it was 2 years ago. So that's how I think, right? So, and I'm always thinking 6 months, a year in advance. So, I don't like having tons of money in my bank account because I had debt and always trying to leverage it, right? I look at the balance sheet and I look at ratios constantly.
Nathan, I just looked at the time. Do you have time for that last one there to get into?
I got one more. Yeah, right. One more is no systems, so poor documentation. So as owners, they're just starting off or been going for a while. Again, it's under the concept of delegating, right? So here at the Geldman Company, any new, especially in the administration side of things, is that if somebody says, they're giving us notice, the last 2 weeks is their hardest 2 weeks of their life because now they have to document every single thing. Every process has to be documented. So the new person can just jump in. So it's a constant thing, process improvement. We document it, giving it to the staff and say, hey, run it, and then make it better, right? Always adding stuff to it. And so if you want to grow your business and you want to have somebody do your job, then how are you going to teach the person? You got to write it down. You got to create the McDonald's thing, right? So you think of any larger, if you compare yourself to other organizations, other industries, it's all about process, right? Think of all the restaurant businesses, like how does somebody start at McDonald's today and within 2 years they're running the place? They're all systems, all process. So why can't we do this for landscaping? It's too much work, Nathan. All right, then don't. And then don't grow, and then don't make money, and don't run. You choose, right? We all have 24 hours in a day. Not everything's a priority, but if you want to grow your business, and you want to add, the 3 to 10 crew thing. But if you're only happy with, 0 to 3 crews, then yeah, it's not as important. If you want 10 plus crews, you are going to find a way. You're going to have to document. So there was a point in time in this company about 4 or 5 years ago, we had 4 branches, and I have to admit, our processes were not documented, and it was just a crazy, crazy time. And just before COVID hit, I cut one out. I closed one branch, and then after COVID, during COVID, closed the next one down. So we only have 2, but our revenues are higher than they were back then, and there's less people doing all that work, and we're having way more fun, and we're making way more money. And so we grew too fast. There's a period of time we were growing way too fast. on one part of the business, and we didn't document things properly. We didn't have the right people in place, and we were giving away, our financials weren't strong. And it's like, okay, well, why are we doing this? Well, when you're growing, it's fun. It's great when you're pride and ego. But you can't take any money to the bank. It's not great for your pride and ego. Not for me. And so that's why now, we've scaled back the company. We put better processes in place. And now we're growing the business, but we're not growing the same way we did 5 years ago. Right. So it's really about getting good systems, good documentation, and it's hard work. That's probably the hardest for any contractor, is slowing down or stopping and grabbing a pen and piece of paper and start writing it down. Right. We have too much work to do. We don't have time for that.
Nathan, that was great. 5 things that I took from those 5 points. So end goal, trust, delegation, seeing staff as liabilities, and knowing your numbers and systems. 5 excellent points. And I will be going back and listening to this interview just for myself included, especially for that trust delegation point. Excellent. Nathan, thank you so much for your time. Where do you want to send our audience to? I know you've got quite a few things that we've already touched on with consulting, accounting, Gelderman itself. Where do you want to send our audience to learn more about you yourself, or anything that you want to leave them with here?
Yeah, the Southbrook Consulting website, so it's southbrookconsulting.ca, and the Southbrook Accounting website. Both of those depends on the needs, right? I'm very picky and choosy on the consulting side, because I too only have 24 hours in a day, and my personal goal is 12 weeks holidays per year. So I did that last year. I'm on track for this year. My family, I have 2 young children, 13 and 11. So anybody else has those kids those age? Now it's I call it the formative years. The more I invest now, the better hopefully they'll be later in life. So my personal time is important to me. So those 2 websites, or just Google Southbrook Accounting, Southbrook Consulting. There's resources there. And always, hey, phone call away. Just call me and chat. It doesn't cost anything. But it just, it hurts me to see, not just this industry, every industry is the same, that some people just need a little pep talk sometimes, but they're doing great work. And most people are, like, I had a client recently, they said, so how close are we to fixing this? I said, you're this close. You are really close. It's just that you have to do this on multiple levels. It's not one big thing. What's the one big thing I need to do to fix? Or what's the one big thing that Gelderman does? Like, nothing. We do 100 things 1% differently than everybody else. That's 100% together. Not one thing ever. And, Rome was not built in a day. Like, some people are so impatient and want their business to be this. Nathan, how do I get my business to be like yours? Well, 65 years. Oh. But Rome wasn't built in a day. You can't expect this to just turn around. Like, it's consistency, hard work. But if you don't have a plan, a goal, then you just give up. You're lost.
Nathan, thank you so much for your time.
All right, take care.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. Once again, check out Cycle CPA at cyclecpa.com. Mention How to Hardscape to get $200 off bookkeeping, accounting, CFO services, whatever you want to go with there with Cycle CPA. They're also worth a follow on Instagram, cycle_CPA, to be able to get some great educational content from them. As well as, if you're on Instagram already, check out Inlight Design. That's INLITE Design. Get inspiration from their outdoor lighting products, photos that they post there. And thank you to both of those sponsoring today's episode and bringing you today's episode. And if you haven't already, please leave us a rating and review on podcasts, apps. That's Apple, Spotify, wherever you can find us. That really helps us with this. So whatever podcasting app that you're listening to this on, please leave us a rating and review. That really helps us get this podcast out there and into more people's ears for this. So thank you if you've already gone ahead and done that, and thank you to those that will go ahead and do that. And just thank you for listening to today's podcast episode, and we look forward to meeting with you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.